Death wasn't quiet. It came like everything else in my life, with a deafening screech of brakes and the aching certainty that I was, once again, in someone's way. The last thing I saw was light. Not the poetic kind. Not a warm tunnel promising peace. No, just headlights. Too close. Too fast. Too late. And in that blinding instant, all I could think was, of course it ends like this. Of course Ivy wins. She always did. She took the job I'd worked a decade to build. The fiancé who used to whisper I was the only one. Even Dad, the man who once called me his star, stopped looking my way when Ivy learned how to shine brighter. She didn't even have to try. She just existed, and the world applauded. I used to believe that hard work meant something, that showing up early, staying late, biting your tongue, and producing gold from chaos would be enough. But no one wants quiet gold. They want fireworks. They want Ivy. And now she had it all. The show, the fame, the man. And I had this, the burn of metal, the shatter of glass, the scream that might have been mine. Then silence. Sharp. Whole. I was floating. Or falling. Maybe both. And then, a voice. It wasn't male or female. It wasn't even sound. It felt like a whisper behind my teeth. You envy her life. I wanted to scream yes. I wanted to scream no. I wanted to say, I just wanted mine back. She took it from you. So take hers, a heartbeat. Maybe hers. Maybe mine. Maybe the world's. But understand, her life comes with her ghosts. I tried to speak. To ask who was speaking, what they meant. But already something tugged at me, not down, not up, inward. I gasped. Or someone did, my lungs filled with someone else's air. And then, color, noise, flashes. Lips painted too red, skin too smooth, nails that weren't mine. A voice screamed, Ivy, over here, give us a smile. I turned. I smiled. And inside, I screamed. The first thing I noticed when I woke up wasn't the sterile light or the beeping monitors. It was my nails. Too long. Too shiny. Too... Ivy. I blinked up at the white ceiling, trying to move my fingers. They responded, foreign and elegant, twitching like spiders on silk sheets. My throat was dry, and my body felt wrapped in static. Every nerve ending buzzed like I'd been electrocuted. Or maybe rebooted. Miss Hale? A soft voice called, Ivy, you're awake. No. But I didn't have the strength to say it out loud. A nurse rushed to my side, face flushed with relief. Thank God. You've been unconscious for nearly 16 hours. We were getting worried. 16 hours. I tried to sit up. My body disagreed. There was a sharp pull in my chest, and something unfamiliar tugged at my hip, probably in fourth, or designer underwear. Who knew what Ivy considered medically appropriate? They brought in more people. Doctors, assistants, hair already being adjusted, lips glossed. Someone dabbed under my eyes before I could speak. I reached up instinctively to push them away, but my hand stopped mid-air. That wrist, that slim manicured wrist, not mine. Panic rose like bile. I turned my head, slowly, shakily, and caught a glimpse of a mirror across the room. No. No. I couldn't look, couldn't breathe. Not yet. Instead, I squeezed my eyes shut, focused on the weight of the sheets, the rhythm of the heart monitor, the throb behind my eyes. Then, like a gunshot, the door slammed open. We need to prep her, a brisk voice barked. Cameras are already outside. If she misses this appearance, PR will crucify us. The voice was familiar, sharp, unapologetic. Joe Sinclair. Producer, brand architect, Ice King, of the media world. Also, the man who once told Ivy she was the only asset in this sinking ship. He stopped when he saw me, or what he thought was Ivy. His eyes narrowed. He looked me over like a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit where it used to. "You look like hell," he said bluntly. I opened my mouth. What came out was not mine. It was Ivy's voice, lower, smoother, but it cracked. "I feel worse," I muttered. He raised a brow. That was new. No fake laugh, no purring flirtation, no camera-ready soundbite. Just honesty. Ragged, awkward honesty. Joe tilted his head, studying me. "Can you walk?" "I think so." "Then congratulations, you're not dead. Let's not make this a habit." I wanted to laugh. I really did. Instead, I slid my legs off the bed and prayed they wouldn't collapse. 2 hours later, I was in a gown that felt like it belonged to a character in a show I'd never seen. My hair had been curled. My makeup was airbrushed into a flawless mask. The team, Ivy's team, buzzed around me like bees on espresso. I was pushed into a black SUV and told to smile. Smile. Because Ivy Hale didn't exist without a smile. And apparently, neither did I. Now. The event was already in full swing when we arrived. Cameras. Paparazzi. Screaming fans. Giant LED screens replaying Ivy's last scandal like it was a cinematic masterpiece. The door opened. A hand helped me out, manicured, firm. I stepped onto the carpet and into the noise. "Ivy, over here! Who are you wearing? Give us a spin." I blinked, blinded by flashes, and forced my lips into a curve I hoped passed for Ivy's signature smirk. It felt wrong, like wearing skin that wasn't stitched for me. Then, from the corner of the chaos, Joe appeared again. His suit was sharp, midnight blue. His expression was the same one he wore on set, cool and calculating. But when he looked at me, really looked, something in his eyes changed. "You're quieter than usual," he said, stepping beside me. No scandalous comment, no wink for the cameras. I looked up at him. And maybe for the first time in my life, I didn't try to be clever, didn't try to be charming. I just told the truth. "I think I died." He snorted. "Could have fooled me. You still owe me that campaign shoot." But his smirk faded when I didn't answer. His gaze sharpened, just a fraction, as if trying to solve something he didn't even know was missing. The cameras continued to fire. People screamed Ivy's name. But I stood there, still. Inside, I was spiraling. This wasn't revenge, not yet. This was survival. She had lived her life chasing approval. And now I was stuck in her body, trapped in her spotlight, expected to keep up the act. But maybe I didn't have to. Maybe I could be something different, even in her skin. Maybe I didn't have to be Ivy. Not completely. I never thought someone else wearing my perfume could make me cry. Especially when that someone was me. Sort of. The apartment, Ivy's apartment, was everything a tabloid fantasy promised: marble floors, abstract art that cost more than my old car, and windows that drank in the city skyline like it was a vintage wine. But there wasn't a single picture on the walls. No framed memories. No laughter suspended in time. Just pristine silence and the scent of garden Miss Number 5, the perfume I had worn for years. The one Ivy once said made me smell like ambition. Now it clung to her sheets. I sat on the edge of the bed, still in my post-event armor, heels off, wig pinned, face scrubbed raw. My own reflection, however, hadn't joined the party. Because I still hadn't looked. Not properly. I stood, heart pounding, and crossed to the full-length mirror in the corner of the room. I paused. Then I looked. There she was. Ivy Hale. Flawless skin, sharp cheekbones, that infuriatingly perfect hairline. But behind the eyes, I didn't see her. I saw me, floating, drowning, waiting to surface. I raised a hand. So did she. I whispered, "You killed me." The reflection didn't flinch. "And now, I'm you." My voice cracked. Ivy's lips trembled. I laughed. Because what else do you do when your soul gets hijacked into the body of the sister who destroyed you? I wanted to scream, to punch the glass, but instead, I peeled off the gown, dropped it onto the floor like a dead thing, and walked barefoot into my closet. Everything was color-coded, organized by designer, so perfect it was terrifying. Tucked between shoeboxes and silk scarves, I found a small leather-bound book. No lock, no embellishment, just E. Curious, or maybe desperate. I opened it. The handwriting was hers. But the words, they were mine. March 8. They think I'm strong. I'm not. I look in the mirror and I see her face, our face. I don't know where she ends and I begin. April 2nd, he said he loved me. He loved her first. He just learned to settle for the shinier version. May 11, Dad says I have to do the morning show. That I'm the brand. That I owe it to the company. I owe him nothing. I stopped reading. My fingers trembled. All this time, I'd thought she was the villain in my story. But Ivy, she'd been falling apart, just behind better lighting. The rage I'd clung to began to split, cracking open to reveal something else. Something worse. Understanding. The next morning, I was back at the studio. The lights were too bright, the air too cold, and everything smelled like hairspray and bleach. The makeup chair groaned as I sat. The artist didn't look me in the eye. She never had to. Ivy didn't allow it. I did. Hi, I said. Just that. She blinked. Morning. Her hand shook slightly as she dabbed foundation onto my cheek. You okay? She asked. I smiled. Small and human. Honestly, I have no idea. Behind me, Joe walked in, hair in 10. We're filming a teaser for the new campaign. His voice was clipped, efficient. I nodded, then met his eyes in the mirror. He paused. Something flickered in his expression. Suspicion? Curiosity? I couldn't tell. You sure you're up for this? He asked, stepping closer. Do I have a choice? He tilted his head. Not really. But normally you'd shoo me out for suggesting you weren't invincible. Maybe I'm tired of pretending. His brows lifted. That's new. I met his gaze and didn't blink. Maybe it's time for new. He studied me for a beat longer, then said, quieter, you're different. You say that like it's a bad thing. I didn't. The shoot was a blur of lights, poses, and scripted laughter, but I let the mask slip, just slightly. Not enough to alarm them, just enough to breathe. Backstage, I sat alone in a plastic chair, nursing a paper cup of bitter coffee. Joe walked past, paused, then doubled back. Ivy, he said, but with hesitation. I looked up. Yeah? He frowned. You didn't scream about the lighting, or the lipstick shade, or the fact that we were 10 minutes behind. I shrugged. Didn't seem worth it. He crossed his arms. You're either having a breakdown, or a breakthrough. I sipped my coffee. Is there a third option? Joe smiled. For real, not the camera kind. Keep this up, and you might be likable. You say that like I wasn't before. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. Back at the apartment, I lit a candle I found buried in a drawer, lavender and sage. The scent was soft. Calming, not Ivy at all. I sat on the couch, pulled the diary onto my lap, and opened it again. A new entry waited at the end. July 2nd. If I disappear, I hope she knows. I didn't mean to take it all from her. I just didn't know how to stop. My fingers curled around the edge of the page. This wasn't just a second chance. It was a burden, a legacy, a truth I hadn't been ready to see. But now I had the power to choose. I closed the diary and whispered into the silence. You wore my skin. Now I wear yours. Let's see who survives it better. He kissed me on the temple. Soft, certain, like I was still Ivy. I didn't slap him. I didn't recoil. I just stood there and thought, who are you betraying right now? Me. Or her? I hadn't seen Ethan in over a year. Not since the week he left me for Ivy. Not since the headlines spun it like a romance instead of a betrayal. Power couple of the year, they called them. I called it a knife between the ribs. And now here he was, backstage at the studio, wearing a navy blazer and that familiar smirk that used to make me feel seen. Now it just made me feel sick. "Hey," he said, voice low and warm like we were co-conspirators in something gentle. I didn't answer. He stepped closer. "You look softer. I mean that in a good way." Still nothing. Then he leaned in, too close, and brushed his lips against my temple like it meant something. Like it hadn't all been a lie. I stepped back. "Don't do that." He blinked. "Do what?" "Touch me like you still have the right to..." Ethan frowned. "I thought we were past all that. I mean, things have been good lately. You've been different." "Yes." Because I'm not her, I wanted to scream. But instead, I smiled. Thin and sharp. "I've been healing," I said. "From you?" He laughed, awkwardly, nervously. "Come on, Ivy. Let's not rewrite history." "Oh, I'm not," I said, stepping in close now, just enough to drop my voice. "But you are. You rewrote it the moment you left one sister for another." His face tightened. "That's not fair." "No," I agreed. "It's just true." He looked around like maybe someone else could rescue him. "I thought you forgave me." I shook my head slowly. "You didn't ask for forgiveness. You just moved on and expected the cameras to do the rest." He tried to touch my arm again. This time, I stepped away. Sharply. "You lost me once when you chose her," I said. "And now you're losing her too. Because I'm not her, and I never will be." He stared at me like I was speaking another language. Good. Let him stay confused. I walked past him, heels clicking like punctuation, and turned the corner. Straight into my father. Of course. Samuel Hale. Founder. CEO. Professional puppet master. His suit was crisp, hair silver and perfect. His expression set to disappointed, but willing to be generous if you behave. "Ivy," he said with a tone that always felt like a leash. "I hear you turned down the morning segment." I crossed my arms. "It didn't feel right." "That's not your decision." "It's literally my face on the poster. And my company behind it," he snapped, stepping closer. "You don't get to jeopardize the brand because you're having a mood." "I'm not in a mood." "Then what is it?" he demanded. "Another performance stunt? Trying to be authentic again?" I held his gaze. And for the first time in my life, I didn't flinch. "I'm done being a product. You are the product." Behind him, I saw Joe, standing just within earshot near the studio door, pretending not to listen. Failing. Good. I took a slow breath. My voice was quiet, but steady. "I'm not doing the segment, and I'm not doing your PR spin games anymore." My father's face went hard. "You're making a mistake." I smiled. "So did you. Years ago, when you decided only one daughter was worth loving." His mouth opened, but no sound came. I turned and walked away, the echo of my own heartbeat louder than the tap of my heels. Behind me, Joe's voice followed, casual but pointed. "Well, that was new." I didn't stop walking. "Still not doing the segment?" "Didn't say you should," he replied. "Just noting the fire." "Careful," I said without turning. "You might start liking it." Joe chuckled softly, like he wasn't sure he should. "And me?" I was still shaking, but for the first time, the tremble didn't feel like fear. It felt like power. The rooftop cafe above the K-Hale offices was normally reserved for very important person meetings, but today, someone had forgotten to guard the elevator. So I sat there, Ivy Hale, known disaster, media darling, secret imposter, sipping lukewarm coffee and wondering how the hell to keep surviving her life without choking on it. That's when he walked in. No entourage, No clipboard, no urgency. Just a leather jacket, jeans, and a pair of dark eyes that looked like they read people for a living. He scanned the room, found me, and, with zero ceremony, dropped into the chair across from mine. "You're not what I expected," he said. I raised an eyebrow. "Charming." "And you are?" "Lucas Reed, director. Supposed to meet Ivy Hale about a new project. Guess I'll take you instead." I blinked. "Wow." "Subtle." He grinned. "Thanks. I practiced." Lucas Reed was not the polished media guy I was used to. He was sarcastic, unbothered, and way too comfortable calling me out. "So," he said, sipping his drink like we were two strangers on a first date, "why do you look like someone just unplugged your soul?" "Maybe someone did." Yikes. "That bad, huh?" I smirked. "What exactly did you come here to pitch? A pity party? Or are you just naturally nosy?" He leaned back, elbows on the chair arms. "I came to pitch a show. One that doesn't suck. Big ambition." He nodded. "Bigger risk. It's unscripted. Raw. Human." I raised a brow. "So, a train wreck with lighting?" He laughed. "Close. People sit in a chair, alone, no makeup, no rehearsals, and they talk, really talk, about failure, regret, who they are without the followers and filters." I stared at him. "And you want Ivy Hale to do that?" I wanted to ask if she could. "Now I'm wondering if you can—" That stopped me. For a full 3 seconds, I forgot to breathe. He tilted his head. "You blinked?" "Excuse me?" Most people flinch when I say the word regret. You didn't. You blinked. Like it hurt. I laughed. A short, breathy thing that barely reached my throat. "Maybe you're reading too much into it." "Maybe," he said, shrugging. "Or maybe the woman in front of me isn't the same one I've seen in tabloids for years." He wasn't flirting. That was the worst part. He was observing, seeing. It was unnerving. I leaned forward. "Tell me the truth. You don't even like Ivy, do you?" He didn't blink. "No, not really." "Then why pitch this to her?" "Because I thought it'd be fun to watch her fail." He grinned, then added, "But now I think it might be incredible to watch her surprise me." Later that day, I stood on one of the side sound stages watching Lucas work. His set was minimal: one chair, one camera, one light. The subject was a woman in her 50s, talking about the moment she realized she no longer loved her husband. The room was quiet, except for her voice. No soundtrack, no cuts. Just truth. When the camera stopped rolling, Lucas walked over to where I stood, arms crossed, mind spinning. "So?" he asked. I turned to him. "You're insane." "Thank you." "And brave." He winked. "That too." There was a pause. Then, without even trying, he said something that knocked the wind out of me. "You're thinking about it, aren't you?" I stared at the empty chair on the set. I imagined myself in it, hair pulled back, no false lashes, no script, just me. Lillian, in Ivy's skin, telling a truth no one would believe. "Yes," I admitted. "I'm thinking about it." Lucas didn't smile like he'd won something. He just nodded. "You should." We sat on a crate near the back wall, sipping cheap studio coffee. My heels dangled. His sneakers were scuffed and comfortable. "Tell me something true," he said suddenly. I looked at him. "Why?" "Because I'm not filming, and I'm curious." I hesitated. Then I said, "I don't like my own voice. Never have. It always sounded too soft, too apologetic." Lucas tilted his head. "Sounds pretty clear to me." "That's because I'm angry." "Stay angry. It suits you." I laughed. "That's a weird compliment. I specialize in those." There was silence again, but not awkward. Comfortable. Familiar, somehow. I looked at him sideways. "You're weird." "I know. And honest. Also true. That's dangerous." He grinned. "Only to people who fake their lives for a living." I didn't say anything. Didn't have to. He already knew. That was the terrifying part. When I got home that night, I sat on Ivy's designer sofa in Ivy's designer apartment and opened her old journal again. I added a line in the back. August 12th. Someone looked at me today and didn't see her. Just me. And it scared the hell out of me because it felt good. It started with a headline. Ivy Hale, the mask slips. Then the subhead. Leaked therapist notes. Unnamed affairs. Silent breakdowns. They didn't call it a scandal. Not yet. But it was blood in the water. And the sharks were circling. I sat backstage at the press conference, scrolling through a feed full of words that weren't mine, not even hers anymore, but still stuck to my skin like tar. They dissected Ivy like a specimen. Diagnosis, performative, prescription, public apology, maybe a tear or two. A PR assistant appeared at my side like a ghost. 5 minutes, keep it light, deny gently, smile. We've drafted a few lines. She handed me a card. It read, "Rumors hurt, but I'm stronger than the noise. My private healing journey should not be public property." I looked up at her and asked, "Do you even believe this crap?" She blinked. That's not the point. Exactly. The stage was set, literally. Branded backdrop, microphones. Rows of journalists pretending to care about healing when all they wanted was the next flame to roast. I walked out and faced them. Lenses clicked. Lights flashed. The world waited for Ivy Hale, manicured, untouchable, to play her part. But I didn't play. Not this time. I stared into the crowd and said, "I'm not going to read the card." A murmur. I'm not here to deny anything, or spin it, or pretend that I'm someone I'm not. I felt my voice tremble, but I didn't stop. Ivy Hale is a name, a brand, a headline. But behind all that, there's a person. One who's made mistakes, one who's been hurt, and who's hurt others. More flashes, more whispers. I let out a slow breath. I've lived my life behind a facade. I thought that's what strength was, being what everyone needed me to be. But it's not. That's just survival. Real strength is showing up as yourself, even if they don't clap. Silence. And then, impossibly, applause. From somewhere in the back. Scattered. Awkward. But real. I smiled. Not Ivy's smile. Mine. I made it to the restroom before the tears hit. Locked in a stall, back against the cool tile, I cried silently into my hands. Not because I was embarrassed. Not because I was afraid. But because for the first time, I felt free. And freedom is terrifying when you've never had it. I heard the door creak. A pause. Then a voice. Quiet, dry, amused. "You made the news before you even flushed." I looked up. Joe leaned against the wall near the sinks, arms crossed. "You followed me into the bathroom?" I checked first. No witnesses. Don't worry, I'm not that desperate for gossip. I wiped my face. "What, you want to yell at me for tanking the brand?" He tilted his head. "Actually, I think you just saved it." I blinked. "What?" Joe stepped closer. Not too close. Just enough. "You were raw, honest. You looked like a human being instead of a hologram for once. People eat that up." "That's dark." "True though." He paused. "I'm gonna say something and I don't want you to take it the wrong way. Now I'm nervous. You're not Ivy anymore." I swallowed. "You're someone I don't know. And maybe I should have paid more attention before." There was softness in his voice I hadn't heard before. "I used to think you were all front. Beautiful, sure. But hollow." I laughed, bitter. "Thanks? I was wrong," he said. I met his eyes. "You weren't. Not really. She was everything they wanted her to be. She just didn't know who she really was underneath." "And do you?" "Not yet," I said. "But I'm getting closer." I found Lucas waiting outside the building. No cameras. No crew. Just him, leaning against the rail like he'd been standing there forever. He didn't say anything. Just handed me a to-go cup of my favorite coffee. You watched? He nodded. Twice. Live and replayed. Any notes? Just one. He looked me straight in the eyes. That was the realest thing I've seen all year. I looked down at the cup. I don't know who I am anymore. Sure you do. I met his eyes again. You're the girl who didn't flinch. The next morning, I showed up on set. Lucas handed me a mic and pointed to the same chair I'd watched from the shadows. No lights, no script, no safety net. Just the chair. And me. I don't think I'm ready, I said. You're never ready. He replied. That's kind of the point. I sat, took a breath, and started. My name is Ivy Hale, I said. But that's not the whole truth. And I kept going. For 28 uninterrupted minutes, I talked about expectations, about loss, about betrayal and identity and second chances. I didn't cry. But when I finished, Lucas walked over and sat beside me on the floor. He didn't speak, just took my hand, not in a way that said, I want you, in a way that said, I see you. Back home, I wrote again in Ivy's journal. August 14th. Today, I stopped hiding behind her name. Today, I was just me, and no one ran away. Office was colder than I remembered. Same marble floors, same glass walls, same sterile success. But now it all felt like a set I'd already walked off of, and didn't care to return to. Samuel Hale sat behind his desk like a king on a throne. His suit was darker than usual. So was his mood. I thought we'd agreed, he said without looking up. The rebrand launches next week. You're the face. I never agreed. He looked up now. Slowly. You said nothing. That's close enough. No, Dad. That's how Ivy lived. Not me. His jaw tightened. Don't start this again. You've already made enough of a mess. I crossed my arms. You mean I told the truth? I mean you put yourself above the company. Again, I let the silence hang. Let it sting. I'm done, Dad. With what? With this. With being your symbol. Your doll. Your talking point? He stood. You think walking away makes you noble? No, I said. It makes me free. You're throwing away everything we built. You built a lie. I'm not interested in maintaining it. He stepped closer. Too close. You're nothing without this brand. I smiled, steady. That's where you're wrong. I was nothing with it. His voice lowered. You won't survive on your own. I leaned in slightly. Watch me. The elevator ride down was silent. I passed assistants who whispered but didn't stop me. Past the front desk where I used to flash a camera-ready smile. Didn't bother this time. Outside, the sun was too bright. I didn't put on my sunglasses. I wanted to feel it. The burn. The light. Behind me, I heard footsteps. Hey, Joe called. I turned. He looked disappointed. Not in me. In the moment. Like he knew it was the right ending, but still didn't like how it tasted. You're really leaving? I nodded. Yeah. He nodded back. Slow. You were good. Today. Honest. Thanks. He shoved his hands in his pockets. If I'd seen it sooner. I raised a hand. Don't. He gave a sad smile. You're not coming back, are you? Nope. Well, he said, forcing a lighter tone. At least now you'll finally be too expensive to hire. I laughed. That's the goal. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say something more. Then closed it. Goodbye was enough. Lucas was waiting near the crosswalk, holding 2 coffees and wearing that crooked smile that meant he either had an idea or a terrible joke. Let me guess, I said, taking the cup he offered. You watched the building to make sure I didn't chicken out? I had money on it, he said. I lost. I sipped. You're annoying. Accurate. We stood in silence for a beat, watching people rush past, heels clicking, ties flapping, no one really looking at each other. Then Lucas said, "You're free now. What are you going to do with it?" I looked at him. "I want to make something real. No brands, no edits, just stories that bleed a little." He nodded. "I was hoping you'd say that." I raised a brow. "Why?" He shrugged. "Because I already cleared a budget for a new show. You, me, one chair, one camera. Truth." I stared. "You really bet on me?" "No." He said, "I saw you." Then quietly, "You've been someone else for so long. I think you forgot how to be seen." And before I could answer, before I could overthink, he stepped forward and kissed me. Not dramatic. Not rushed. Just there. Steady. Grounded. Not a rescue. A recognition. When we pulled apart, I exhaled. That was unexpected. He smiled. "Was it bad?" "No." "Do I get a second shot?" I smirked. "Only if we film it." That night, in the apartment that no longer felt like Ivy's, I sat down and opened the journal again. One last entry. August 16th. I thought I had to live her life to get justice. But what I really needed was to live mine. Whatever name I use, it belongs to me now. And I'm finally free. The studio lights dimmed. The monitor hummed. And there it was, in simple white font against a black screen. Created by Lillian West, no full name, no headline. Just 5 letters, a dot, and the quiet weight of truth. I watched from backstage, legs crossed, fingers tapping the armrest in rhythm with my pulse. The room buzzed with quiet crew chatter and the scent of coffee that had long gone cold. But I didn't move. Because on that screen, in front of the small preview audience, sat me. Not Ivy. No lashes. No veneers. No perfect angles. Just Lillian. Raw. Unfiltered. Alive. The camera had captured every blink, every breath, every pause I wasn't brave enough to fill with lies. And they hadn't cut it. Not a second. I felt something swell in my chest. Not pride. Peace. Someone passed behind me and murmured, "Strong, first episode." Lucas appeared at my side a moment later, holding 2 water bottles, one for me, one probably forgotten. He sat. Didn't speak. We watched together as the audience stared, transfixed, at the honesty we'd built. No one clapped when it ended. They just sat there, breathing, absorbing. I turned to him and whispered, "Is that good?" He smiled without looking away from the screen. "It's perfect." Later, I returned to the apartment. Smaller now, quieter. Most of Ivy's things were gone. Donated. Packed up. Stripped away. I didn't need them anymore. The walls were bare, but I didn't rush to decorate. The silence was mine, and I liked it that way. I caught my reflection in the window. Not polished, not perfect. Still in makeup from the shoot, but softened. Smudged. Real. I looked into my own eyes. And for the first time, I smiled without fear. No act. No mirror games. Just me. The next morning, I stepped outside into the sunlight, sunglasses in hand. I paused for a moment on the sidewalk, then lifted them off and tucked them into my bag. The sun hit my face like a promise. Not of fame, not of forgiveness, just warmth. I looked up, squinted, smiled. Then I walked forward. Whatever name they whispered behind me, Ivy, Star, Scandal, Story, it didn't matter anymore. Because I knew who I was. And this time, I belonged to no one but myself.